this lecture, we will review the topic of love. Greenberg, in his textbook, The Science of Everyday Life in 2018, talks about this thing called love. The British novelist Charlotte Bronte captured the basic truth not only about humans, but about other primates as well. Over 100 years later, the psychologist Harry Harlow discovered that when he separated infant monkeys from their moms and put them in cages by themselves, they became intensely attached to cheesecloth baby blankets. When the blankets were removed for laundering, the poor little monkeys became distressed. In its most general sense, love is a strong, positive feeling we have towards someone or something we care deeply about. The object of our love is of great value to us. We feel possessive towards it. And if it is a living being, we usually want the love object to love us back. Indeed, in the romantic context, unrequited love causes damage to self-esteem and hostility in the rebuffed lover and guilt in the non-reciprocating beloved. We typically love our parents, our children, our siblings, our pets, and our romantic partners. We also may love other relatives, friends, our car, our flat screen TV, our hometown, and our country. Although all these forms of love can be important, social psychologists have focused primarily on love between adults that includes sexual attraction, and which is commonly referred to as romantic love. So let us now review the concept of romantic love. When people are asked to name a person they feel closest to, the most popular choice is one's romantic partner. But what is it like to experience romantic love? Answers have been provided by many observers over human history. Ancient philosophers, poets, and storytellers, Renaissance writers such as Shakespeare, even early psychologists such as Freud. Homer's great epic, The Odyssey, is fundamentally a love story. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is perhaps the most famous love story of all. Romantic love is often portrayed as inspiring great feelings of joy and wholeness. At the same time, romantic love has also been described as a madness or a disease and can cause great suffering, pain, and discord. Consider this anonymous poem by an Alaska native transcribed in 1896. I am torn by your love for me, pain and more pain. Where are you going with my love? I'm told you will go from here. I am told you will leave me here. My body is numb with grief. Remember what I've said, my love. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye. And indeed, when love is not reciprocated or a romantic relationship doesn't work out, it can lead to stalking, abuse, murder, and suicide. Social psychologists began focusing on love with Zick Rubin's seminal 1973 book, Liking and Loving. Rubin developed scales to distinguish feelings of liking, which characterizes many types of relationships, from feelings of loving, which characterize romantic relationships. Now, in regards to culture and love, romantic love seems to exist in the vast majority of cultures. In a survey of cultures around the globe, anthropologists found clear evidence of romantic love in 147 out of 166 cultures. But what about the 19 cultures without evidence of romantic love? In these cultures, the aspect of people's lives was not necessarily absent, but had not been studied. Although prevalent across cultures, romantic love is partly shaped by a person's culture. The culture we are raised in tells us what love is like, whom we should love and when, and how to act on our feelings. To gain insight into how the nature of love is portrayed, researchers examine the use of words and songs to express love in the United States and also in China. Although they found similar levels of passion expressed, the Chinese were more likely to incorporate suffering and sadness as part of the love experience. Cultures also vary in whether they associate love and marriage. Many contemporary cultures, such as the United States and Japan, consider love a primary basis for deciding whom to marry. But in some cultures, such as those prevalent in the parts of India and Pakistan, marriages are arranged. In fact, basing a marriage on love is considered inappropriately and full-heartedly. Even in European cultures, until well into the 19th century, love generally was not considered a basis for marriage. Rather, marriage was a pragmatic arrangement that served social and economic goals of the bride's and groom's families. Rubin in 1973 noted that many Western ideas about romantic love developed out of medieval concepts of courtly love. This kind of love has considered likely only between people who weren't married, often between a man and a woman who became his mistress. In many stories, romantic love emerges in opposition to cultural forces that control who marries whom. The well-known Chinese story of the butterfly lovers is over 1,000 years old. The young lovers are blocked from marrying by their society. As a result, the man eventually pines away and dies, and the woman subsequently commits suicide by throwing herself into his grave. The good news is that they reemerge as butterflies. Stories such as Romeo and Juliet, The Butterfly Lovers, and countless others dating back over 4,000 years attest to the universality of romantic love and to the fact that it often persists despite opposition from society. So, to recap on this thing called love, social scientists have focused research primarily on romantic love, though some of the same principles would hold for understanding friendships, familial bonds, and other close relationships. Now, romantic love in early research distinguished between liking and loving. Loving typically involves intense caring, intimacy, and a deep emotional investment. In regards to culture and love, the capacity to experience romantic love is likely universal, but is partly shaped by one's culture. There are different theories of love in psychological functioning. Please view my learning lecture on the different theories of love. First, attachment theory. It proposes that most people seek security from their romantic relationships, much as they once did from their parents. The nature of that original child-parent bond affects the nature of subsequent adult close relationships. Second, the terror management theory suggests that love and close relationships help us to buffer the dread of being aware of our mortality. And third, the self-expansion model of relationships suggests that love relationships often are valuable paths to personal growth. And lastly, models define the experience of love. The two-factor theory persists that love is partly a label we apply to feelings of arousal on the basis of contextual cues. And the triangular model of love suggests that love is based on combinations of three basic components: passion, intimacy, and commitment. Please view my learning video lecture on Sternberg's triangular theory on love. We will go in depth in regards to these three basic components: passion, intimacy, and commitment, as well as the 8 patterns of loving.